The invitation song will be number 454, Nothing But the Blood, verses 1 through 3. Now we will be singing I Want to Be a Worker, number 297, verses 1 through 3. I want to be a worker for the Lord. I want to love and trust His holy word. I want to sing and pray and be busy every day in the vineyard of the Lord. I will work, I will pray. In the vineyard of the Lord, I will work, I will pray, I will labor every day in the vineyard of the Lord. I want to be a worker every day. I want to lead the erring in the way that leads to heaven above, where all is peace and love in the kingdom of the Lord. I will work, I will pray in the vineyard of the Lord. I will work, I will pray, I will labor every day in the vineyard of the Lord. I want to be a worker strong and brave. I want to trust in Jesus' power to save. All who will truly come shall find a happy home in the kingdom of the Lord. I will work, I will pray in the vineyard of the Lord. I will work, I will pray, I will labor every day in the vineyard of the
Good evening. So recently, I've been having phone trouble. And if you've ever had phone trouble, you know it can be a little bit aggravating. And so I haven't had like Wi-Fi issues, but my battery. All right, I cannot get my phone to charge. I can plug it in. I've tried, 12, 15 different chargers. I feel like anytime I see somebody, I'm like, hey, let me try your charger, and just hope that their charger works on my phone and that it'll get my phone charging. But it's been a little bit frustrating. And it got me thinking about this particular phone. So this is the phone right here. And it's got a lot of cracks, and the screen's about gone in this corner down here. And anyway, it's been through the ringer. Miss Natalie gave me this phone. So bless her heart, she gave me this phone. But that being said, I ordered a new phone today off of eBay. Where else do you go but eBay? But I got to thinking about this phone. And back during September, I was in California for a conference. And this particular phone, I have two phones. I have my personal phone, I have my work phone, but I have them linked together so I can kind of do whatever I want on either phone. But when I was in California, while I was out there in Long Beach, one day I had went to eat after the conference, everything. I went to this little drive-in about 15 minutes down the road from where my Airbnb was. And I had ate, sat there, was enjoying, the weather was nice, sitting outside on the patio. Decided it's about time to go. I'm gonna head back to my room. It was about 8:30 and still nice outside. Call an Uber, and get my Uber, and go back to my room. I go back to the room, I get out of my Uber, and I immediately start to feel for my phones. And I use both hands because I got two phones and one goes on each side. So I pat myself down looking for my phones. And I okay, here's this one. Where's this one? And so I start feeling around. I don't find it anywhere. I'm like, oh no, I had to just left it in the back seat of this Uber. Well, the Uber is gone. I can see his tail lights, but he's gone. So what does any person do? You take off running. And so I took off running after that Uber. And he's making a turn already, and I ran him down. I ran him down about 3 or 4 blocks, and I finally caught him at a red light and just threw my hands on the windows. He probably had no idea what in the world was happening. He probably freaked out. But I got him to stop, and I opened the door, I didn't even let him roll the window down. I just opened the door. And I opened the door, and I said, hey, I think I left my phone in the back here. Hold on, let me look. And so anyway, I open the back door, look in the back seat, can't find it anywhere. I look in the floorboard, don't find it anywhere. I don't see it anywhere in there. And I said, hey, I guess that's not in here. I'm sorry for running you down, acting crazy. And so anyway, I'm walking back to my room, and I'm sitting here thinking, where in the world is this phone? I had to have left it at the restaurant. Well, anyway, I'm sitting here thinking, the Uber driver had told me, he says, I would stay here longer and help you look more. He says, but I got another call that I'm on my way to. So I said, okay, go ahead and leave. Well, anyway, I'm sitting here thinking, the only thing I can think is try to get back to the restaurant, but there's probably no chance that it's there. And so anyway, I called April, and April told me, she said, well, it's probably at the restaurant. And she looks on her phone, and she says, through the Life 360, it says you're at, I don't even remember the name of this restaurant, but it says you're at that restaurant. And I said, okay, so I left it there. So I called another Uber. Conveniently enough, one can't get to me for 15 minutes. So I wait 15 more minutes from getting this Uber, and then it's a 15-minute ride there. Well, I get in this Uber, I tell the driver what's going on. He says, well, why don't you just look on the, find my iPhone? And I told him, I said, I don't have that, man. I don't do technology. I don't have that. And I said, I wouldn't use that app. I'm from Tennessee. We don't do stuff like that. And he says, no, I don't think you have to download that. I'm pretty sure you just have it on your phone. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. So Two Phone Jordan says, all right, I'll pull that up. So I go to this phone, and I go to find my iPhone. Sure enough, it says I'm at the restaurant. I says, this is great, man. That was a really cool trick. And so he's all about it. And I told him, I said, get me there. Hopefully I can get my phone. Well, we get about 5 minutes from the restaurant. And I check it again. I refresh it on there, and it says I'm not there anymore. And I'm like, oh, no. Now what? And so it says that I'm way on down the road. And I told the Uber driver, I said, it says I'm not there. It says I'm at this location. And by this point, he's kind of getting invested. And he's like, let me see the phone. Let me see it. And so he's looking at my phone, and he's scrolling across the map. He's like, oh, I know where that's at. I know where that's at. And I said, okay. And I said, well, you think you want to take me there instead? And he said, yeah, I'll take you there. And he's investing. He's like, I'm going to help you get this phone. So I said, apparently either someone has got it, picked it up, and is going down the road with it or something, or I don't know what's happened to it. Well, anyway, we go to the restaurant and passing by to the new location. Well, the new location is, I think, at a KFC. I think it was a KFC. And by this point, we're 45 minutes from whenever I actually left the restaurant. So it's been a while. And so we get to the KFC, I hop out, and I said, it says it's right here. And he says, you want my help to look? And I said, no, you're good. If you got to go somewhere else, go right ahead. I'll try to find it. So I hop out of the car. I'm looking all around. I'm looking in the bushes, in the weeds, in the drain culverts and stuff around there in the middle of Long Beach, and trying to find this phone. I can't find it anywhere. Well, y'all didn't know this, but Miss Natalie had a nice, pretty rose gold fleck sparkled case, and I kept that on there. That became part of my identity in that phone. And so I kept that on there. Well, anyway, there's this woman who comes around the corner. She's got on a nice rose gold speckled case on her phone. It has it in her hand. Well, I say, hey, she turns around and I said, "Is that my phone?" To which she promptly replies, "No, this is mine." And I kind of just, okay, all right. I backed off a little bit. And then I realized, I was like, okay, that's probably not my phone, because I look back on there and my phone's moving again. By this point, the phone's like 10 or 12 blocks on further down from where I'm at. And so all I can figure is somebody's got it and they're moving. I don't know if they're in a vehicle. I don't know what they're doing. So I'm following this, and it's like 9:30 at night by this point. And so I put it in my head, I'm finding this phone. I don't know who's got it, but I'm finding this phone. So I take off. I am power walking. I mean, like Olympic level power walking down the streets in California to find this phone. Keep checking it all over the place. It'll ping off the Wi-Fi at different restaurants along through the strip there. I'm checking my phone also because my phone has 2% battery left on it, in which case, you know, when your phone dies, all location services are gone. So I realize the clock is ticking on this thing. And so I am hunting voraciously after this phone until finally I get to about a block and a half of it. And I see that the phone crossed the road. So I crossed the road. And then I stopped because my phone, it's got a little bit of lag from where it actually is to where it's showing me on there. So I'm just waiting. Well, then I see that the phone is actually coming back at me. And I'm like, okay, hold right here, JP. And so I'm looking. And finally, I see two people. A man and a woman. I don't know, they look like they're in maybe middle-aged. They're pushing a shopping cart across the road. I presume them to be homeless. But that being said, they're pushing back across the road towards me. Well, anyway, I stop, and I'm just watching this phone, and I'm trying to see where this phone goes. And sure enough, the phone follows right back across the road and comes right back by me, going right back where I came. And I said, there it is, right there. I said, they've got the phone. And so then I did what any good person would do. I cased them for about 2 blocks. I was not just going to immediately pounce on them. I cased them for about 2 blocks to see if they were watching me or looking around or doing anything else kind of shady or hinky or anything like that. And in which case, I didn't deem that they were, so I said, I'm going for it. So finally, they get up to this crosswalk, and they're having to wait. And finally, I get up there, and I just told them, I said, hey, you have my phone. And they looked at me, and I don't think one of them spoke English. And the other one said, no. And I said, I know you have my phone. I don't care how you got it or what. If you just picked it up, all I want is my phone back. I said, I know you have it. And he looked at her, she looked at him, and she kind of went like that right there. And I was like, I knew it, got it. And so anyway, he reaches up his sleeve, and I don't know what he's fixing to pull out. He reaches up his sleeve and pulls out my phone, and in which case, it's just this right here. There ain't no case on it anymore, but it's just this right here. And so I got my phone, and I said, thanks. I turned around, and I walked back and caught an Uber and went back to my room. And so I finally found my phone. Now, a lot of people that I've told that story to have said, you have lost your mind. And I think my mom told me that was incredibly stupid and never do that ever again. And all for a free phone that Miss Natalie gave me. I was risking it all at 9:30 on the streets of California with 2 homeless people who could have done anything to me, and I had nobody else there around me to help me at all. But it was all for this phone, and it was because I wanted my phone. So when I think about that, that makes me think about the story in Luke, all right? It makes me think about Luke chapter 15, when we talk about the lost sheep, and we talk about the lost coin, and talk about the lost son, all right? The lost sheep, a man has 100 sheep. He loses one, he has 99. He goes and he searches and he seeks after that sheep until he finds it. The woman has 10 coins and she loses one. She seeks after that coin until she finds it. And in both those instances, both of those people say, rejoice with me, for I have found that which was lost. And the Bible says in both those instances that there's more joy in heaven and that there will be angels rejoicing over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons. And so I think about that, and I think about what is important and what are we seeking. what's important to us? What is worth risking it all, like I did for this phone? Looking back on it, I don't know I would have done it again, but I may have because I don't learn easily. But that being said, what's important to us? What are we seeking? Are we seeking after God? Is God important to us? Are people important to us? Are friends and family members that we have who we know have problems or sin in their life, are they important to us? Are we seeking after them? Are we trying to reach them the same way that I was trying to find this phone? We have a mission team in Uganda right now. They're in Uganda doing the mission, spreading the gospel. They are actively seeking people, okay? They're in Uganda. We don't all have to be in Uganda to have that same mission. They're going out doing the mission, the same commission in Matthew 28 that we read about that me and you have as well, to where we're also to go out there. We don't have to go to Uganda. We can stay right here at our workplace, at our schools, in our own homes, in different places, and we can be the ones who are seeking those. What's our effort like? How's your effort? I had a whole lot of effort in that. I had like $40 in Uber charges racked up in trying to find that phone, much less the time and everything else to find that phone. How's our effort? Are you really putting in the effort? Or are you just kind of casually going about, and if it happens, it happens? Do we halt everything else? I didn't have anything else planned that night, but I pushed everything that I didn't have planned aside to specifically find that phone. Are you halting everything else in your life to find God, or to grow closer to God, or to reach those people? The man who had the lost sheep and the woman who had the lost coin, they stopped everything until they found it. Nothing else mattered until they found that sheep, until they found that coin. How's your effort? How hard are you looking? Alora plays hide and seek with my dad sometimes in the house, and he'll hide somewhere, not even really hiding, but Alora doesn't like to look very well because she knows he's going to pop out and scare her. And so she's more worried about him scaring her, so she doesn't actually seek very hard. How hard are you seeking? Are you really trying? Are you really putting in the effort? Are you trying to find God or to grow closer to Him? Are you trying to reach these people that you know need you, the people that you know need God? Is it as important to you as me finding my phone? I don't know. That's a question we each got to ask ourselves. So tonight, think about that. Think about your own relationship. Think about your relationship with others. And if you need to try harder, you need to work more, you need to put in a better effort, then make the change tonight. If you need to put in more effort in your own life, in your own Christian walk, then make that change tonight too. Whatever need you may have tonight, we ask you come as we stand and sing.
What can wash away my sin? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. What can make me whole again? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. Oh, precious
bow with me, please? Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this time that we have midweek where we can pause and come here tonight and study another portion from your word. Heavenly Father, we are thankful for our teachers and for the lessons that they've prepared. We ask you to be with us as we're about to go to our class and help us to clear our minds and to take the things that we're going to learn and be able to apply them to our lives. Heavenly Father, we ask that you be with those that are sick, those that have gone through surgeries, that you would restore them back to a reasonable portion of their health to be your will. Heavenly Father, as your children, there's times we say and do things we shouldn't. We ask you to forgive us for these things and give us the strength to overcome them. We ask this prayer in your Son's name. Amen.
Well, welcome to our class this evening, and I'm ready for you. We're in 1 Samuel chapter 9. We'd gotten down to verse 10. We'd finished verse 10, ready to start verse 11, but Doug wanted me to read verse 10 in Hebrew because I told you that 3 times in that verse, that word for walk or go, halach, is used 3 times in that verse. Now, when it comes out in Hebrew, the thing about it is you get something totally different from halach. You get another form of it. 2 of them sound exactly the same. One's a little bit different. So the verse starts out, Vayomer Shaul la Naaro, and then he says what he says to his servant, Tob Dabar Ka, good word, good deed. Now, I said all that because I found another way to say it to you in Hebrew. Someone who is a Hebrew And we'll see how this works. So just listen carefully. It's going to start at the very first of verse 10.
ויאמר שאול לנערו, טוב דברך, לך נלכה, וילכו אל העיר אשר שם איש האלוהים. הם
See, you don't see it, but the Jews, the Hebrews, would hear the different sounds. And one of the sounds they would hear is the L sound 3 times in a row. They would hear that, and but we don't. But I think when I say it like I did, that there's 3 times it says halak 3 times in a row, you can kind of understand that they would hear it in Hebrew. So anyway, that little app is really neat. It'll read the Old Testament to you in Hebrew, and it's kind of cool. But anyway, back to our text for 1 Samuel. Here, I'll give this to you, Doug. You can read it in English, Hebrew, and if you can figure out the way they pronounce all of that, it's kind of weird. So what we have here is Saul and his servant going to look for the donkeys that have been lost. And finally, Saul's ready to give up and go home. He's afraid his dad's worrying about him. So the servant says, well, look, there's a seer over here in this town. And Saul says, well, look, we don't have anything to give to the seer. We've run out of bread. I don't have anything to give him. And the servant says, I've got a quarter of a shekel of silver, or about 1/10 of an ounce. And so that's when Saul says, good word, good thing that you have that. Let's go find the seer. And so we pick up in verse 11, and I guess you might want a handout. I'm sorry. Anybody need lesson sheet 9? Lesson sheet 9. Lynn does. Just raise your hand and Lynn will get one. I think you'll find it helpful to have that handout. And then here's the second page to it, the ending of it. Thank you, Eric.
Okay, it's just one page.
Yeah, it's just one page. It fits onto the end. Yeah, sadly, I couldn't finish it last week, and I had to finish it this week. I'll remind you that up in verse 10 and all through this story, Saul's servant has been referred to as a Na'ar. And we've talked about Na'ars. Well, here's what's cool. He uses it in verse 10. Now we get to verse 11. As they went up to the city, they met some young women, Na'arah. Same word, just the feminine form. So these young women are called Na'arahs. And that's kind of interesting because, as we talked about, Na'ar can be a young person. It can mean a prince. It can mean a servant. We've seen it used as servant. It can mean a wide variety of things. Well, the same thing happens with the feminine form, Na'arah. It can mean a young woman, a young lady, a maidservant. It can take on a variety of meanings. So I just find it interesting that all along here, the servant has been called a Na'ar, and now they meet some young women, and they are Na'arahs. So kind of an interesting state there. And they're going out to draw water. We could talk the rest of the class about how many times in the Bible women are going to draw water and things like that. I don't think it really says any more to the story, but that's what the young ladies are doing. They're going to draw water. And they said to them, is the seer here? So Saul and his servant want to know if the seer, the roe, is here. Let's see here. I turn it on. There they go. And they answered them and said, yes, there. And I want to stop with there. Hine. Now, you may remember that I put this word several times. It's like, look. It's not, we use, he's over there. This is, look, stop, pay attention. So when he says hine, it's more than just there he is. It's really trying to get their attention. Yes, there he is, just ahead of you. Hurry now, for today he came to this city because there's a sacrifice of the people today on the high place, the Bama, the high place. So these young ladies are able to tell them, the seer is right up in front of you. Now, when we see that, I'm thinking, well, they can see Samuel up there. Evidently, they couldn't. And that'll come clear in a little bit. But it says, there he is. He's just up ahead. But you better hurry because there's a sacrifice today, and that's the reason he's come to the city. Now, most people I read say that they must be in Ramah at Samuel's hometown. You would think that that's where he is, but we don't know because he says he came to this city because there's this sacrifice today on the high place. And high place, I don't know if it's right here or later in my notes. After the temple is built in Jerusalem, high place becomes a place of idolatry. It's where they went and worshiped various gods. It became a place of pagan worship. Evidently, at this point in time, the high place did not have that connotation. Evidently, in this case, it is a place of worship that's acceptable. In fact, we're going to find this place has a permanent structure, evidently permanent. There's a hall there. And the word used, I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, but the word used there for hall is like an adjoining room to a bigger hall. So it's like here, if we went down back here in adult 1 and 2 with the kitchen in between, it's a room off of the main hall is the type of word that's used there. As soon as you come into the city, now these are the young ladies telling them how to find Samuel. As soon as you come into the city, you'll surely find him before he goes up to the high place to eat. For the people will not eat until he comes, because he must bless. He must bless Barak, the sacrifice. Afterward, those who are invited will eat. Now, therefore, go up, for about this time you will find him. So these young ladies know it's about time for the sacrifice to begin, and they can't do it until Samuel gets up there. Now, I find it interesting that Saul has been trained as a priest as a little boy. He is recognized as a prophet. He is recognized as a judge. But it appears in this situation that he's acting as a priest to bless the sacrifice. It appears again. And I think that's important because I still think Samuel is all three of those things. And so every time we can pick up him acting as a priest, I think is important. We know he acted as a judge, and we know he acted as a prophet. So I think all three of those are important. So they say he's got to bless the sacrifice, and then certain people are invited to this meal afterwards. There's going to be some meat left over from the sacrifice, and whoever's been invited will get to eat that meat. And so they say, you better hurry. So they went up to the city. As they were coming into the city, notice that Hine again, there was Samuel. Look, readers, look, here comes Samuel. He's walking right towards Saul and the servant, coming out toward them on his way up to the high place. So Samuel is making his way up to the high place, and it's just amazing that he's going to run into Saul and his servant. I don't think it's too amazing. I think the Lord had this planned out way ahead of time. Now the Lord had told Samuel in his ear. This is another one that you think about different things. So many words are used in Hebrew for to speak. Over 5,000 times in the Old Testament, the word amar is used for to say something or to speak something. 421 times the verb amar is used in 1 Samuel. That's a whole bunch of times. Just think about that. 31 chapters and 421 times the word for speak is amar. We've already seen dabir as a word for speak. And then we saw the word for answer, anah. But this is a totally different word. And it means to uncover, to make clear. And the scene I get as I read this, now the Lord had told Samuel in his ear the day before, it's like, hey, Samuel. It's like the Lord whispering in his ear and saying, look, Samuel, tomorrow, about this time, Saul's going to come. And here's what he says. Tomorrow, about this time, I will send you a man. Now remember, we are 24 hours later after the Lord has spoken to Samuel. The young ladies have said, about this time, there was a set time. And so the Lord said, tomorrow about this time, so now that time has come. About this time, I will send you a man from the land or the tribe of Benjamin, and you shall anoint. And we've talked about this word, mashach. It's from whence we get Messiah. This is the verb. And then the Lord is going to be the Messiah, but you anoint him commander. Now here's what's interesting that maybe we haven't thought about before. What have the people asked for? Back in chapter 8, what did they ask for? A king. They asked for a king, a melech. A melech. And what the Lord says, I'm going to give them a commander, a nagid, over my people Israel. And a nagid is not a king. It's a supervisor. It can mean like a prince, but it's not a king. And maybe the Lord's message is, they've asked for a king. They're going to think they get a king, but what I'm giving them is somebody to lead them, to supervise them, to command them, but it's over my people. It's over my people. I'm still the king. And so maybe there's something in the wording there when he says, you shall anoint him commander over my people Israel, that he may save my people. And again, just a reminder, this verb for save, yasha, is the same from which we get Hosea or Joshua. mean a deliverer or a savior, that he may save my people from the hand of the Philistines. And again, remember when Samuel became judge, they didn't have any trouble with the Philistines. The Lord restrained the hand of the Philistines the entire time Samuel was the judge. Until he died, Philistines weren't a problem. God says, this person I anoint as commander, he is going to save my people from the hand of the Philistines. I think he's saying, you better enjoy it now, because when Samuel dies, the Philistines are going to give you problems again, and they do, and they do. And then the last thing that's interesting is, for I have looked upon my people because their cry has come to me. And it sounds like the start of the book of Exodus, where the children of Israel are in bondage to the Egyptians, and the Lord looked down upon his people and he heard their cry. Almost the same exact wording. Comments, questions? So when Samuel saw Saul, the Lord said to him, and again, there's that word answered, respond, anah. The Lord said to him, there he is. Now look, even the Lord saying, pay attention, Samuel, there he is. Look, there is the one of whom I spoke to you. This one shall reign. When a king reigns, it's malach, like melech. It's a form of that same word for king. When a king reigns, it's malach. But the Lord uses a different word, atzar. Atzar. It's someone who commands and rules over, but he doesn't use the word for king. Is the Lord trying to tell us and Samuel something? And I think he is. Yes.
The ESV right there says restrain.
Okay, thank you. Because, and I think you'll find it in my notes, that word for reign basically the basic meaning of it is to restrain. And again, maybe the message is, people, yeah, he's going to reign over you, but he is going to restrain you, and you're not going to like it. You're going to get fed up with it pretty soon. And there may be a message there. Again, when I get to teaching here, I kind of leave my notes, and I try to remember things. Please read the notes. Please read the notes. I think they'll be beneficial to you. Thank you, Brian. This one shall reign over my people. Then Saul drew near to Samuel in the gate and said, please tell me, where is the seer's house? Now, there's several things very interesting about this. First of all, it's like Saul doesn't know who Samuel is. Now, Samuel has been judged for many years. He's been the leader of Israel. He's caused the revival in Israel. And Saul evidently doesn't have a clue who this man is. And I find that interesting. Now, you remember the servant knew about him. Now, he may not have recognized him, but he knew about him. And he knew he was somebody that they need to consult. So here, Saul gets close to Samuel in the gate, so they've run into each other evidently. And he says, please tell me, where is the seer's house? And Samuel answered, and again, I don't know. It's not a Hebrew class, but there's so many interesting things about the Hebrew language. And so Samuel answers Saul. He doesn't say to Saul, he answers, and then he says, Amar. That's that word Amar that I said appears 421 times in 1 Samuel alone. So he says, I am the seer. Go up before me to the high place, for you shall eat with me today. What an invitation. I mean, so Saul, all of a sudden, he finds out this is the seer, and he's the one who's come to bless the sacrifice, and he's invited me to come eat. That's pretty special, because remember, the young lady said, after he blesses the sacrifice, those who are invited get to eat. And so here, Saul has an invitation. He's going to realize in a minute how special that invitation is. But he says, and tomorrow I will let you go and will tell you all that is in your heart. What else do I want to tell you? I guess we don't have a clue really what Samuel is going to tell him. He says, all that is in your heart. Right now, all we know that's in Saul's heart is, where are my donkeys? Where are my dad's donkeys? And he's probably worrying about me. But Samuel says, I'm going to tell you tomorrow all that is in your heart. So we're going to eat the sacrifice today. We're going to feast today. And then tomorrow, I'm going to let you go. Well, what does all that mean? But as for your donkeys that were lost 3 days ago, do not be anxious about them, for they have been found. Now remember, Saul hadn't had a chance to tell Samuel the reason he's there in the first place. But Samuel, being a prophet of God, being a seer, he's able to see something that Saul can't see. And he says, look, I know where your donkeys are. Now, Saul has got to be thinking, how does he know this? This man really is a seer, and he knows about that. And then he says, on whom is all the desire of Israel? Is it not on you and all your father's house? Now, I'm sure when Samuel said that to Saul, Saul said, what in the world are you talking about? Why is the desire of Israel on me and my father's house? Why is all the desire? Well, unbeknownst to Saul at this point in time, unbeknownst to the people at this point in time, Saul is going to become the anointed one. He is going to be named the king, but not yet. Not yet. It's still being held in secret. But Samuel's slowly revealing all of this to Saul. And Saul answered and said, am I not a Benjamite, of the smallest of the tribes of Israel, and my family the least of all the families of the tribe of Benjamin? Why then do you speak, and there's that word, debir, and not amar, why then do you speak to me like this to me? Do you remember someone in Judges who replied kind of like that? I'll give you a hint. His name started with G. Gideon. When the Lord said, and he said, wait a second, am I not from an insignificant bunch of people? Is basically what he's saying. Here's what's interesting. Benjamin, at this time, is probably one of the least tribes of Israel. Now remember, their landmass, their territory is not real big. It's not the smallest, but it's pretty small. But they've been almost wiped out because of what happened in Judges, and it was from men from, this is interesting, from Saul's hometown, Gibeah. And so the tribe of Benjamin almost gets wiped out on the male side. Now, Gideon, on the other hand, was from the tribe of Manasseh. And he said, I'm from one of the least of the tribes. Manasseh had property on the east side of the Jordan and the west side of Jordan. They had one of the biggest territories of all. And Gideon's making this protest. I think Saul has a more valid complaint, but he's trying to, why are you talking to me like this, seer? I mean, I don't understand why the desire of all Israel would be on me and my father's house when we're so insignificant in the whole scheme of things. Now Samuel took Saul and his servant and brought them into the hall. Again, that word means an attached room to this bigger place, and had them sit in the place of honor. And the Hebrew word translated place of honor is this simple Hebrew word, rosh. And rosh simply means head. He had them sit at the head among those who were invited. And the invited guests were about 30 men. Now we see that and think, well, that's interesting that they would say they had them sit at the head. But if we have a banquet here, and I've been to several in the military, what do you call the table where all the muckety-mucks sit? You call it the head table, don't we? Well, that's a good place to get it from Hebrew. And there was, now, I'm sure about this time, Saul's starting to think, I don't understand this. He invited me, but there's 30 invited guests along with me, and I wasn't originally scheduled to be here, but there's 30 other guests. What can we do in 2 minutes? And Samuel said to the cook, bring the portion which I gave you, of which I said to you, set it apart. Well, again, remember, Samuel knows 24 hours in advance that Saul is coming. He knows that he's going to invite Saul up to eat with him. And so what does he do? He says, cook, you set apart this special cut of meat. You save it for my guest. Set it apart. Now I want you to bring it out. So the cook took up the thigh with its upper part and set it before Saul. And Samuel said, here, look what I got you. What was kept back, it was set apart for you. And again, think what's going through Saul's mind. Look, I wasn't planning on coming to eat with you, and you've set this apart for me. Everybody else is eating Spam, and I'm eating the porterhouse. I mean, that's basically what he's done. He's brought him the big leg of lamb, and everybody else is getting a little bit of mutton or something, I don't know. But he said, I kept this back for you since I invited the people. I've already invited all these other people to come, but I found out you were coming, Saul, and I set this aside for you. So Saul ate with Samuel that day. And I think that's where we'll stop. Any final questions, comments? Thank you for being here. Have a good rest of the week. See you Sunday.